everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. We're back. It's true. It must be Wednesday night. You're with us. Thanks for that. Somehow we've been here for 4 years. It's inexplicable, much like Donald Trump's first presidency and hopefully only. Tonight we are bringing back the great Boris. You've seen him before. He's brought us great things. Tonight he has brought us 1987's Joe Dante. That's Pliskin. He's excited as well. Innerspace, which is really fun. It's almost like it was absolutely inspired by a 1966 Pliskin, Fantastic Voyage. And this movie is actually a very 1987 movie. It's a very 1980s movie. And I have to say, we were talking before the show, you know, this is maybe the third or fourth week in a row, I think, on my favorite shitty movie, where, you know, this film was a mainstream, big studio budget, A-list production that would not be made today. And by that, I mean, let's look at some of the bona fides behind Innerspace. We have, Steven Spielberg, executive producing. We have Goober and Peters' names on this. We have Kennedy and Marshall's names on this. We have a screenplay really written by Jeffrey Boehm, the late great, who has left us now, but, you know, best known for actually doing Lethal Weapon 2 and 3, Shane Black's Lethal Weapon 2. I love, after the success of the first Lethal Weapon, the producers at Warner Brothers said, I don't know that Shane's the right guy for the sequel. So Jeffrey came in and really rewrote that, and that launched him into doing lots of rewrites, right down to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He was one of the top screenwriters back in the day. And here he is doing this riff on that. We have Dennis Quaid, who's about 4 years away from being, The Right Stuff, about a year away from being in DOA, a remake, which is really interesting. And I actually think one of the better remakes Hollywood has ever done. But most importantly, maybe for a brief period of time in the 80s, there was a power couple that was Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, who is also a co-star in this film. They met on this movie. They married. They would go on to do DOA, I think about a year later. Of course, she would have the great Harry Met Sally film a year after that. And the rest is history. She became America's sweetheart for many. This movie is just a delight. You know it's the 80s because we've got lots of crimped hair, unfortunate clothing. No one knows what's going on with Meg Ryan's gel in her hair. And we go into the, Sherman Oaks Galleria. We're in the Valley a whole lot, but then somehow it's supposed to be set in San Francisco. We have many questions. Before we dig deep into this, I want to bring up my co-host in Mayhem, the great Todd Anderson. Bring yourself into the show, sir.
Here I am with my DVD copy of Innerspace.
Oh my God.
Dennis Quaid is flying through Innerspace.
He's so cute in this movie. He has.
I love Dennis Quaid in the 80s. There was this and Dreamscape and all these other things. The Big Easy, crap like that.
Yeah. Oh, The Big Easy is a great film. I love that.
Yeah, and I loved Randy Quaid in the 80s too. I loved the Quaids 100%. And then they were together in the Long Riders, the Walter Hill Western.
That's
with all
right.
the other, with the Keaches and the Carradines and everybody.
It's before we knew the Quaids were bad for us, I think.
Yeah. And the guests, we didn't know who was good or bad for us when we saw the Long Riders, but he's a delight. I mean, I think both the Quaids were a delight in that era when they appeared in things. They elevated those things. It's sad that I'm not politically aligned with them now. It's sad.
You're not, depending on one's point of view.
It's sad that they're insane.
That is true.
Jeff Luce said suspect. He brought up suspect. With Cher, obviously, who does not agree with Dennis Quaid's current politics.
No, but suspect is another one. I think it's Eric Roth, but it was one of his first big scripts, and it's a preposterous premise that you would never have today also, where Dennis Quaid is a juror, Cher is trying to defend a mute Liam Neeson. Back in the days when we thought, let's get Liam Neeson and not let him speak. It was a homeless person who's being framed for maybe allegedly killing somebody, but perhaps the unhoused person is not the problem. Perhaps we're in DC and perhaps politicians are. Who knows? But anyway, Cher, she's in the circle, but it's a really compelling, despite a ridiculous premise, that I would argue like a great double feature in terms of people who wrote scripts who never went to law school would be Suspect, and then maybe Double Jeopardy. or they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
hey,
This is definitely that era, like
great.
late 80s into 90s, like cheesy thrillers. We'll just call
The
them
best,
cheesy.
the
Are
best.
so much fun. You don't get that anymore.
We don't, because I mean, well, my theory on that is like, I'm just going to blame Bruckheimer. CSI comes in the shadow of 9/11 and
Yeah,
makes television look like a slick Bruckheimer movie, which we love.
yeah.
But the problem is that procedural aspect of the thrillers and the crime thrillers took the place of like the kind of Ashley Judd in Peril cycle that, from like Double Jeopardy to Kiss the Girls to High Crimes to blah, 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 and so we kind of stopped doing those movies because we did them every week on a bunch of.
And also their subject matter started getting covered on cable and then eventually streaming by
Yeah.
Lifetime and Hallmark, and like these kind of concepts have turned into TV movies. They're not stuff you make. You have to be harder core to make a thriller now.
And an unfortunate reality of not making the Woman in Peril films, which were have been a stock in trade since silent films forward, is that if you're not a Meg Ryan romantic comedy gal type, then you made it by being in these female driven thrillers, which always made money because they were high concept, and if you were pretty you were cast, and that's what we did. But now we don't make those, and we don't make romantic comedies anymore, so the path to being a female movie star in the way that Gen Xers think of it is almost not there on the theatrical stage. So you have people, oh, were you the girl in Euphoria? You should be Barbarella. And that's what we're doing now.
I don't know that the path to being a male star is
No.
any less altered.
But you at least will still do Twisters, and so Glenn Powell can have a moment. I love her.
Yeah, but there was a lady in Twisters. It's just nobody talks about her because she doesn't annoy as many people.
She doesn't pop.
Glenn Powell does.
Very good, but she doesn't pop. Yeah, no, but I feel
Glenn Powell only he pops for some people, but then other people are just like, oh,
I don't know.
I don't know what to do about that Glenn Powell.
Well, he's here to stay. But you know who I'm excited about? We're going to bring Boris up because I want to jump into Joe Dante. Joe Dante is one of, I think, if you're a Gen Xer, he touched you. I'm sorry, I'm not in an appropriate
way. You know what Joe Dante is? Joe Dante is the John Landis who didn't kill anyone.
And who actually has a better sense of humor too.
Yeah, and he's not a miserable homophobe.
But what's interesting about Joe Dante, and I love this about him, fans who are watching the show, if you don't know about, I guess it's a website, it's called Trailers from Hell. Joe Dante and Josh Olson, I think, are kind of members of it who produce it, but there's a lot of other really great filmmakers also who participate, like Kat Shea shows up, really, really fun people.
And there's even you can dig, there's an out of print DVD that has sort of a compilation of the best early parts.
And most of them live online, but they are filmmakers who reflect back on good, bad, and the ugly movies, and they celebrate them by talking over the trailers so you can get a sense of if you want to watch the films or not. But Dante is so wonderful and such a film buff, and I think really, kind of age like a lot of our great filmmakers from the 70s and 80s. Obviously Dante starts, at the Roger Corman facility, right? And so, he's doing like Piranha, John Sayles writing, and so he works with a lot of the Corman players. So some of those cast members are here, like the great Dick Miller and people he picked up.
I think he more consistently it's not repackaging or reimagining or whatever. It's just taking something that you loved as a kid, a cinematic story you loved as a kid, and doing it for a more modern audience from your own perspective. And that is what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg absolutely did. That's why they're tied to Joe Dante as producers quite often. But Dante more consistently, I think, did it. Made these movies that were like the old movies that modern kids like me could go, oh, that's fucking hilarious. I love it. It's awesome.
He is really encyclopedic with his knowledge of film, and it shows in even films like this one, where he's at bat. And what I love about him is there's a sense of fun. And I had read a little bit about just the genesis of this. Someone wanted to kind of do an updated version of Fantastic Voyage, right? Which, was a book in its own time, and it was turned into kind of a Cold War 1966 thriller famous for going inside the human body of a scientist to help repair something because we need to shrink, and the Russians versus the US, and Raquel Welch is wearing tight clothing. That's basically right. So
that's just good movie making.
It's good movie making. It's good decisions by all. But what's interesting about this, Joe Dante read an early draft and did not like it. Chip Prosser, who gets a story credit and a co-producer credit on this film and screenplay credit, Dante didn't like it. He passed. Then Warner Brothers got it, and they put John Carpenter on it as a director. And Carpenter thought, oh, this is actually kind of cool because I get what you're riffing on, and I would like to kind of do that. And again, Big Little. And so he leaves this one. He drops off this because the script wasn't quite there, but he got Jeffrey Beaumont to write it. He goes off to do Big Trouble in Little China, you know, Jack Burton, The Pork Chop Express behind Todd, as we see. And so then it becomes a Joe Dante vehicle again when Spielberg says, Joe, take another look at it. We had another writer that Carpenter put on it. Look at the script now. It's not a ripoff of Fantastic Voyage. It really just uses the core concept and goes from there. And then Joe got this, and he infused it with his own brand of humor. I know Gremlins is probably the classic, but unpopular opinion, Gremlins 2, the new batch, where he mocks Hollywood, is also very special. Maybe one of my favorite dark comedies of that era.
Very underrated sequel to this.
It very much is. So with all that in mind, I want to bring Boris up into this conversation. Again, as we've mentioned, Boris was like, he has many lives and many interests. He's a cool guy. He wanted me to introduce him as, he's been here, he's been there, including the show. I'm going to say he's a tiki aficionado. This man knows all the great dives, like for great food, wonderful tiki cocktails. You know, he also had a life as a stand-up comic. He's very funny. He's really cool. And he's a total pop culture enthusiast. And I can't think of a better film for him to have brought back to us than Innerspace. Welcome back to the program, Boris. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm good. How are you guys?
You know,
good. Good to see you, man, as always.
I'm in the dark. I don't know what I did, but it's does that help?
It's good. It's very mysterious. So, Boris, it's been a minute. Remind the kids playing along at home, for you, what makes a fun, great, shitty movie? And by way of that answer, why you picked this one to chat about?
I had a couple other ready to go, but then this one just popped into my mind. Been seeing a lot of Martin Short lately. It's my favorite era. Meg Ryan, from Armed and Dangerous to DOA, the Frosted Tips.
Yes.
The I'm a tough, but I could still use some help version.
Right. Right.
And then, Dennis Quaid, that particular Dennis Quaid is a lot of fun. Someone called Mr. Scrimshaw is a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Mr. Scrimshaw is everything.
Exactly.
Have you guys seen Reagan?
No.
Don't you want to? Kind of?
No.
I do, because it's Dennis Quaid. It's because it's Dennis Quaid. I'm curious. I'm not going to pay for it, but if I can see it for free, I'll give it my
You're
time.
going to pay.
I will pay one way or the other. I'm with Boris. Time, if not money, sir. So
could be a great shitty movie. You don't know.
But not your favorite.
Anything that tries to prop up Reagan as anything other than the villain he was, it's like, I don't know why we need that. It's like, well, Hitler, if he only got that art show, he would have been great. Like,
well, I mean, it looks like Reagan treated by Christian faith propaganda stuff.
What could go wrong?
And I think like when they did it with Elvis, it worked for me. I thought it was great.
Oh, yeah.
In the what was it? The Identity or whatever it's called. I'm curious about Reagan. I know the reviews are terrible. It didn't do well at the box office. It didn't even do as well as that. What was the Jim Caviezel one where he's like fighting sex traffickers? Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Sorry, you're right. What was great about that movie was that it was complete Christian propaganda about the alleged fear Republicans have about Democrats who sex traffic, and two of the producers on that film actually have been arrested for sex trafficking.
Yeah, I know. Of course they were.
So I just feel like, guys, we're here to fact check your ass. But yeah, so Innerspace, a different time. Boris, I assume, but I don't want to. You saw it in the theater first or video?
You know what? It was VHS. I didn't see it in the theater.
Okay.
But that, I saw it in 1989 or whatever.
Yeah. I saw it in the theater, and then is like back then, a movie came out in the theater, and you waited almost a year to see it at home.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
great.
was almost like, oh, it like the excitement happened twice. It's coming out in
Yeah.
the theater. I'm excited, and then oh my god, I get to be excited about it again and watching it again. Obviously, because they changed the aspect ratio and other things, but
Right.
it was
Yeah.
like another experience. You got it 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big deal. Now a movie comes out and you don't know it's on TV or released until you channel surf past it. And you're like, wait, wasn't that out 3 months ago?
Yeah, I like at this point, I'm starting to get mad. Like when 2 to 3 weeks after the theatrical release, they stream it because it doesn't do well or whatever the deals are. But then I feel like a sucker. I feel like a sucker that I went to the movies to see this. And like if it's good, I don't feel like a sucker.
Right.
But most movies, I'm like, oh, I could have waited 2 weeks and then spent less money to watch this in my house and pause it when I need to pee.
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel like an idiot.
And it's hard too because I feel like, I'm not going to die on the hill for the Fall Guy. I thought it was amusing, if not flawed. But like, I can watch Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt do anything. So much like Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, I can watch those guys do anything. But I feel like for various degrees that Fall Guy did or didn't work for people creatively, I don't think this is one to really get critically sharp skilled on. I just think you just go and have fun. But like 17 days after it opened, you could stream it. And I think we're in a tough time, right? So it's like if I'm paying $20 at the Alamo a piece, or if I'm going to watch it here with friends for 25 and own it, so we're kind of cannibalizing the success of these potential.
I wonder, Tracy, I mean, you're a producer, you know better than I do, but I just wonder if instead of this new, marketing thing that we do, like 2 to 3 weeks after the movie comes out, we put it out on streaming. And like it's something with the Fall Guy that got such great notices,
Yeah.
and the critics loved it and early audiences, loved it. And then it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
What if instead of releasing it on streaming right away, because it didn't do well, if you just waited a year and made it impossible to see the Fall Guy, and then the people who have heard all the positive things about the Fall Guy are like, I want to watch the Fall Guy, I want to watch the Fall Guy, and you can't get to it, and then suddenly it gets released, and then it's a giant hit on video. That's what happened in the 80s. By the way, that's how it worked.
Yes.
It is. I think because we don't have a home video market to bail us out anymore, the only chance to get money if you're not performing in the theaters is to charge people $25 quickly before they lose interest, because there's a glut of product. People have like ADHD, and I think things are getting lost. And it's a real bummer because when I see things like, I don't want to cast aspersions, Netflix, your original films are often terrible. And I'm like, why? I've sent you good scripts with good casts, and but
I'd like to be in some of these terrible movies.
I would like you to be in them too, because I'm like, really, that J-Lo and Atlas is the best you got? Union? Anyone see Union with Marky Mark and Halle Berry?
I kept thinking about it, and I could not do it. I could not watch.
But it's like, I don't know. I'm not just picking on those people. I'm just frustrated because as a producer, if I could get any one of the aforementioned stars to attach themselves to a good script, then we could make the script. Instead, there's like 10 people who maybe move the needle, sign up for things like Atlas is a good example, because I don't think anyone thinks that was a good idea. Maybe J-Lo was the only one. But like, that's how we need to stop performing. We need the people who actually can help move the needle to get financing, to start having people who read for them or give them better advice. It's so frustrating because everyone wants to be in a good movie. They want to do good work. They do good work in bad films. It's not that. It's like, we can do better. And so that's the thing. And going back to Innerspace, what I love about this is this delicious mashup, really, of comedy. There are sight gags. There's inappropriate humor. It's PG. There's a lot of violence and sexual jokes that are like for kids. And again, there was something about 87 that allowed this movie to get made. And I think,
how did it squeak by in 87 with a PG and not a PG-13?
I think because of the humor. And when you go into sci-fi fantasy, you get away with a lot. You can have dragons barbecue people, and it's a PG movie. It's like fine.
Yeah, but Quaid's earlier Dreamscape was PG-13. It was one of the
Well, that
first
was when we were
PG-13.
creating, because Spielberg ripped a heart out of a human being, and we're like, that's for kids. But I think that there's something. I don't know. There's something really cool about this era, and I think it's not just nostalgic because we're all Gen Xers. There's something great about this. I think, Boris, you had mentioned, and Todd, you agreed. Talk to us about the runtime. This is almost 2 hours. What were your guys' thoughts?
Todd?
What? Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my thing about this movie, I love this movie. So my criticisms of it are from the point of view of loving the mistakes it makes. I think its pacing is bizarre and reminds me of more modern comedy movies like Judd Apatow movies, because it's got a narrative going, and it will, instead of folding the jokes into the narrative, it just stops the narrative to have fun scenes. It's like there's no, like, if you cut the 2 minutes where Dennis Quaid and Martin Short are drinking Southern Comfort.
Great.
But it makes them so happy, and they dance together, and it's 2 minutes, and it's hilarious because Martin Short's physicality, like, Martin Short is amazing to me because he's clearly a very experienced and talented dancer. But when he does the Ed Gormley thing in it,
Ed Gormley lives.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious, and he makes faces. He's unafraid of mugging. He's very old school comedian, which is a thing I like about Martin Short. It's not a criticism, because it's genuine. When he makes his dumb faces, it's so very
yes,
genuine.
Jeff. Good call. Yes, Jeff reminds us that it's good to be in an age where Southern Comfort is no longer considered good bourbon. I think that is a progression. That is a progression that we should note. It's delightful. But I also think, and this is another thing about Joe Dante, I often find in these movies, there's a sweetness. Maybe this is also your Judd Apatow connection. There's a sweetness in terms of Martin Short, might be kind of a little nice, nebbishy guy. He gets to kind of have an adventure and flirt with Meg Ryan. But I think there's an expectation in a world where Dennis Quaid is already going out with her, even if they've recently broken up. Like, he's probably not going to end up with Meg Ryan. But he's so sweet and he's so winning. And that this inner nerd gets to become the guy who has this adventure. I think immediately, and because he's so delightful as an actor, and as you say, a really gifted comedian, I think you have to have no heart to not be rooting for Martin Short getting to live his best life. He's like, even like the choice of, I work at Safeway and I'm stressed out, and then they're like, just calm down, we're going to take care of you. Just can't get into it. And then he goes on this adventure. And there's something really lovely about that. And, like we were talking a little bit before the show as well, like with Meg Ryan, she's no one's better looking and cuter than Meg Ryan in this era. It's just not possible, right? As far as the ingenues and the blondes go. But in this movie, she's cast as a reporter. She's a single lady who has her own career, who's like trying to break real stories, but always with a tongue-in-cheek kind of, his girl Friday, I'm gonna get the story. And there's something lovely about that. I mean, she has a taser and a gun in her hand twice, and again, a PG movie pointed at a bunch of dudes. Like, things that usually get you at least a PG-13 did not on this one. And I think the delight and the heart and the fantasy and the fun that Dante can balance in some moments better than others, to your point, I think he got away with a lot in this movie that I don't think we could do today. I think people would be all, freaking out.
Yeah.
The jokes.
Hey, Boris, can you take us through the narrative of the film as best you can, imagining it's for somebody who has not seen the movie, doesn't have access to it?
Sure. Okay, so it's about we'll say down on his luck test pilot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's been, drummed out of the service, we'll say.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like, I can't think of it right now, but you Heartbreak Ridge, where Marsha Mason is no longer with Clint Eastwood, but she still gets invited to the parties.
Right.
Oh, right.
Randy Quaid Dennis Quaid is at this party. He gets hammered. He gets in a fight. And then next thing you know, Meg Ryan is scooping him up and bringing him home to his apartment filled with rabbits.
Rabbits.
Wow, why is this guy so into rabbits? And it turns out he's going to be injected into a rabbit.
But also going back to, this is a PG movie. I just, like, from the girl's point of view, it's like, wait, so he's a drunk. He's embarrassed himself. He's humiliated all the pilots in this like room. She takes him home. He is like a lech and groping her and being all kinds of inappropriate. Oh, if you wanted to, you just ask me. And you're like, yeah. When I was a young girl, I'm like, he's so cute. Now I'm like, Jesus, this is really not okay. So they clearly, in a PG movie, she does stay. The implication is absolutely they have sex. So she has sex with him one last time. Then the next morning, we got, again, a very naked Dennis Quaid. I'm here for it.
Alcoholics do not have abs like that. Look at those abs.
I didn't enjoy him kicking the cab door shut.
Yes. And Dick Miller.
I'm glad that late 80s machismo is gone.
Yeah. But he's also, like, as hot as he is, you get the feeling he's like a lean 110-pound cocaine machine. You know.
Absolutely.
It's like very Jaws 3. And
the title sequence ends in his drink.
Yes.
Which is like, wait, what?
In a PG movie. I'm just going to keep saying that. Like, holy crap. Okay, yeah. Sure.
And he never, like, this movie is not about him overcoming alcoholism. No. It's about him maintaining functional alcoholism throughout the entire movie.
And there's a moment, because Meg Ryan is such a boss, where she literally hooks up with him one last time and literally says to him across, the San Francisco cityscape, it's just too painful to see you like this and to be with you. He's like, but I think I broke my toe. You have to stay here. Well, better your toe than my heart, which will be a callback for later, right? And then Meg, showing her soap opera training, can queue up and cry better than maybe anyone this side of, like, Demi Moore, in the back of his cab driven by the great Dick Miller, who's been in.
Oh no, I disagree with that sentiment. I
love her.
I see what you're saying, but Meg Ryan's crying is way more believable than Demi's crying.
Oh my God, the ghost scene where she looks up and then it goes down with the perfect boy haircut. Come on.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's that's what it is. And all she's doing is pinching a muscle in her eye that makes a single tear roll down. That's not how people cry. People are either ugly while they're crying, which Meg Ryan is not afraid to do.
True story.
Or they look gorgeous and there's a single tear. I never believed Demi Moore crying.
Really?
Once. Not once.
I did. I still felt, because they're both soap opera trained. I'm just saying.
I guess, but I'm just saying Meg Ryan's got some more classical training and she's pulling from more real stuff. I mean, it's manipulating your own psyche and probably not healthy either way.
says
so
my
who was the cab driver?
It's Dick Miller. Look at
I like to think that he was working to save up money to buy his diner in New York City in after hours.
Well, there's also a really good joke. I think we have a picture. The great, was it William Shallert, who plays Martin Short's drop.
Oh my God, he's hilarious in this movie.
Like, he actually played a doctor in The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957. So again, this is quoting the movies that Incredible Shrinking Man, Fantastic Voyage, like this is again that fun.
This actor is a comedic genius. Like there's not a scene that he doesn't get a laugh out of.
No,
he's so good. I have some new tests I'd like to run on you.
Oh my God! Or the one where he's like, "Well, back in the day, in the medieval ages, they would flay your skin alive." I don't know what the current thinking is.
I have no idea what the current thinking is.
But he was going to look it up. He was willing to look it up.
I will look it up.
Martin Short.
This is before Google, folks. It's before Google.
So Boris, tell us a little setup, because it's really important, because we've got this trio of interesting people who are literally thrown together and inside one another awkwardly. Right. Tell us who Martin Short is. What's his deal when we pick him up?
Martin Short is a hypochondriac who works at a Safeway, like you said, because it's safe, and it's also a legitimate grocery store in the Bay Area. Yeah. And then he wants nothing but stress, or nothing stressful in his life. And he goes to his doctor says, go get away, He goes to the mall to see a travel agent, like everybody does.
As one does.
1987. And then he gets ejected in the butt, which is weird because he doesn't really freak out about that.
No.
That's like the most terrifying part of the movie, and he, afraid of everything, seems okay with it.
Actually, this moment worked for me personally because the way he stands back and just wide-eyed watches everything go down is exactly what happens to me when something terrifying happens in my life. I just go, ah! And I take no action. I just stare at it. Like one time when I was a kid, in Florida, I was just sitting here and the wind grabbed a sailboat that was open and on the shore next to me, and it started falling towards me. And I just sat there going, whoa! And my dad yanked me out of there, and he was like, why the fuck? When you move, when something's falling towards you, you get out of the way. But because I understand anxiety and I understand this character that Martin Short is playing, I totally understand that reaction. It's not freaked out. It's not panic. It's just, he's just taking it all in because it's already, been traumatic.
This is also a sequence that, Todd, you had pointed out something really interesting, I thought, at the top of the show, where you talked about how, like, sometimes jokes would just be there, like they'd stop the narrative and there'd be like a gag or a bit or a thing. And there was so much going on in this mall. But one of my favorite just throwaways, like, again, this was like you paid for 3 people. This would have been an easy cut. I'm sorry, I laughed out loud. A penguin giving nuns balloons. I mean, Dante's like, okay, sisters, look at the penguins. I mean, like, we're still doing sight gag jokes in 87. Like, this would have been a Marx Brothers joke, right? But like Dante,
and in the sequence, for me anyway, the penguin in the sequence is almost a red herring because I was like, is he the guy who's?
Yes, it works.
Is he the guy? Yeah. And he's not. He's just a helpful guy dressed up like a penguin.
100%. 100%. But then also it's not enough to do that. So when they're scientists, like, I guess we should back up. So the important thing to know with all the Michigas is that, right, Quaid is thrown out. He's kind of crazy, kind of a drunk, but he's willing to be shrunk down, put it to this
hyper. He still wants his glory. I think he still wants to be pioneer in the whatever.
Well, and he's in addition to being a almost functional alcoholic, he's also clearly a narcissist because he talks to himself in the mirror.
Clearly,
you're the best. And when he's breaking up with Meg Ryan in that scene that you pointed out before, the first thing he says is, "Come on, you're crazy about me,
right?
Yeah,
you love me."
There's also a scene where he goes into the lab because the whole idea is, right, shrink me down, put me in a hypodermic, inject me when I'm this small into a bunny ostensibly so we can test things. And then, of course, Mishigosh happens. We've got people who break into the lab, and it's a whole thing where then you send them
easily too, by the way. I mean, they comment on it later, but there was no security at all.
No security, but I love this look where everyone looks like, this side of Devo, who break in, right, and and kind of hold the whole lab hostage. And then this shot to me reminded me of the Corman exploitations, like I think it's Fiona Lewis is the star, but to me this could have been Joan Severance in a New World picture. He gives her this movie star hot girl lighting when she's just taken off her helmet, and I just like it's the way, even the way it's lit with like the light behind her.
Yeah,
it's just a Corman move, guys.
For people too, I think that when she starts to pull it, it's someone else.
Yes, it's just, but it's that makeover, like my all-time favorite Hollywood makeover. It's like The Big Sleep. I think it's Dorothy Malone, and when Bogart goes in and he's trying to look across the street, so he hangs out in the first edition books category. So there's very like, no, it's Alexis Smith, and so she's wearing glasses and her hair is up and she looks like a librarian because she works in the bookstore. And then she sees Bogart, and you have to believe that she's like, oh my god, it's Humphrey Bogart, the Ifas, the Vapas. And so then she takes off her glasses and her hair, and then they do this like Warner Brothers light where she's like the hottest chick on the planet. He goes, hello there, right? And it's like, so you have Dante in a Warner Brothers film 40 years later playing that game with his bad girl in his movie. And I'm like, he's a filmmaker who's quoting old movies. He knows what he's doing. He's having a great time. And whether we got that when we were kids in 87 or not, who knows? But like, that little attention to detail is why I think it's good to be a film buff and honor what comes before, but how do you make it your own? And Dante is firing in all full cylinders in this one.
I just want to point out that you guys were talking about the security detail and this.
Yes, security, talk to us about that.
And the security guard that the guys come in, and he's very polite and confused, and then ultimately murdered or knocked out. I'm not sure what they're doing to people because it's never made clear.
It's the spray or whatever.
The spray in the face. He's the first person in the movie to get spray in the face. This guy's name is Robert Netchess, and he is our Anderson family reenactor Hillary's late stepdad. Also in About Last Night, a delightful actor. But every time I watch this movie, it's impossible for me not to go, Bob. Yeah,
I love that. Thank you.
That's so great.
Very cool. Very cool. So the experiment has to go. So we basically have like the iconic image that we saw a lot in trailers growing up. We see the kind of process. There's lots of hardware, again, very Corman-esque. This is what labs look like when you didn't have money, but now he has money and they still look like this, apparently. We do some model work where this is suspiciously looks a lot like the spaceship from Joe Dante's film Explorers, but let's not think too hard on that. He gets really small, and so he's in process, as it were. The lab gets invaded. And then one of my favorite things, and Boris, I want you to talk to us about this character who is so delightful, Snap-on.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what to say because he's just kind of brooding. He's like Jaws from the James Bond movies. A little more sophisticated. But
he has one finger that doesn't bend.
Okay.
He shoots people with it. Also, it's important to note that this is the guy from the Road Warrior and Weird Science and all those movies.
That's him?
That's him.
I had no idea.
And he's in Commando. And part of the joke was, because keep in mind, right, this comes out in 87. Terminator was 84. So he's wearing the same brand of sunglasses, and he's kind of honing his performance to be a pseudo Arnie, imposter as the hit guy. And it's funny because when you see him, he is in Commando. So it's like he's worked with Arnie. He's been in the Road Warrior. So, is it Vince Owens? But he's wonderful in this part, but he's kind of silent, and he just he understands the assignment. I just think it's hilarious though that he's introduced with like these like luxury plates, because if you're a criminal killing people, maybe don't have like an easily remembered license plate.
Right. Exactly. But so that's why he doesn't talk, because then we would know he was Australian, and Australians are nice. They don't have torched hands.
Totally. And so it's crazy, but this is the scene also where he shoots somebody with his finger. And here's another joke we wouldn't make today. A young white boy with what looks like an AR-15 type weapon, because I guess Rambo came out a couple of years before, walking around the mall with a fake gun, watching a man with a real gun take out a scientist.
Did you say Vernon Wells? Did you say that?
Vernon Wells. It's Wells. That's right. Vernon Wells. Thank you. So that's interesting. And you also had this moment where he shoots the scientist in front, but then we do a reverse where he only is bleeding in the back and not the front. So there's a continuity error. So I don't know if that was originally scripted or a reshoot, but it's an odd thing to see.
Well, also weird that Martin Short sees this whole thing go down, and then he just, he's not detained by the police. He goes back to his job.
Yes. And then the scientist's like final fade out is he's surrounded by these mall animals.
Yes. There's a lot of characters going on in that mall.
Did you guys, when this moment happened, did you guys like at all think to yourself, whoa, what if I was dying and then just all these furries came down on me?
Yeah.
Sounds, I can't decide if it'd be like, oh, all these sweet animals, or Jesus Christ, these furries are going to rape me. I don't know what you would think in that moment.
Like, is this the white light?
Yeah. Does this mean I'm going to be reincarnated as an animal?
I mean, I have to come back and work in the mall. Like, yeah.
What a horrible way to die.
Well,
In a mall for one.
In a mall. But so then, cut back to Dennis Quaid is like, wow, I have been injected into Martin Short's ass. He doesn't quite know that yet, but he's moving around. He's trying to figure it out. So you realize you have a problem. And to your point, Boris, like the cops don't do anything. He just goes back to work. And then we are introduced to talk to us about this character who can't pack a bag to save her life.
I love her.
She's great.
The hair is everything. It brought me right back to high school.
And she, she's one of the Wendy Shaw, and she plays Wendy in the movie. So it's like the Tony Danza. Let's just call him Tony, just in case.
It's actually her character and Martin Short's character's relationship in this movie was for me as a kid one of the greatest messages I got. As a nerd, was like what. Spoiler alert at the end when he's like, no way. I was just like, oh, like as a kid, I was like, yeah,
right.
You don't need to get laid. You just need to go do other stuff.
But as a kid, I was also like, are you sure? Really
yeah, there was that.
Really like you right now.
Yeah. But I just because I didn't see it very much. It was usually the hero winds up with the chick and all that.
Right.
And this was like kind of an off-center hero who could wind up with the chick, but his character chooses to not wind up with the
also, rightly so, she literally says to him, I'm a mess, I'm a thing, and you're the only person in the store I haven't slept with, although I'm sort of attracted to you, which is right. He's like, thank you. I mean, it's like this, it's so insulting. You're like, oh, I'm like,
I don't want to jump to the end, but at the end she's saying, I think we should be exclusive, or at least you anyway.
Yeah.
But then why is she, Henry Gibson, his boss, and his doctor at Dennis Quaid's wedding?
I don't know. Everybody's at their wedding.
Everyone's at the wedding.
All the characters you've met on this adventure at the wedding.
Well, it's also funny the wedding, because this whole thing is supposed to be set in the Bay Area, even though the malls are in the Galleria and Sherman Oaks and whatever.
And I think is that the LA River that they're driving by, but there was pine trees, so I was confused.
It's the LA River near Warner Brothers. So
okay.
It was the Terminator 2 River section, and then there's
definitely I just thought of this. There's a shot in the movie where a guy is running from the scientist before he gets killed, before he injects it.
Yeah, they do a race. Yeah.
There's one moment where he jumps over a fence, and then he's running next to what is clearly the LA River. And I know exactly the fence he jumped over, and I know exactly the part of the LA River he ran down, because that's part of CBS Radford.
Yes.
Okay. That is where that is. I've walked by it so many times.
I'm glad I asked. So that's just another 80s great LA River movie.
Absolutely. And then when they get married, it's in Palos Verdes. It's one of the Lloyd Scott churches, the Wayfarer Chapel, which we just lost. So preservation is losing their minds because we blew it. But it's used it's like you only see it for maybe 10 seconds when they walk out, and it's one of the most gorgeous churches on the planet. But the idea that, again, this is a Warner Brothers movie. I'm so jealous as a producer. Like, yeah, we're just gonna go down to Palos Verdes and we're barely gonna see the thing. It's a whole location day shot, and you're like, you had a whole day to shoot 2 seconds of them walking out being cute. But at least they memorialized enough of that chapel so you can see it, because we've lost it. Right. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I like the editing, because again, I would argue the best version of this movie, I would have taken half an hour out of it, and it would have been, I think we could have done that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it should be a 90-minute movie, but what are in order to keep the humor, what 20 minutes do you cut out? Because I just don't think you can cut out. If you cut out 20 minutes, you're cutting out all the comic bits.
And
it's just it's a 90-minute movie.
When his face changed to the cowboy's face,
yeah,
arguing with him. you could lose a minute there.
The cowboy reporter plot can be better streamlined. The first 10 minutes.
Right, and you can cut the
sure.
scene where cowboy guy with the blow dryer does "I'm cowboy," which is like a
Robert
good
Picardo. We love Robert Picardo.
He's great.
Nothing but
I'm
love.
not
With hair.
I'm just saying, would you cut that because it's unnecessary? I don't want to lose that.
I
don't lose any of it. I'm fine with the way it is, but there are spots we could cut.
It could absolutely be tightened. But one of the things that I think is fun, and this is where he tries to do the Fantastic Voyage thing, and what I appreciate about the structure of what they're trying to do with this plot is that you've got Dennis trying to survive in Martin Short's situation. Well, Short is on the outside trying to work the real world problem. And then the third act, I think you could also streamline this a little bit better. You got Road Warrior guy, who gets injected. So then it becomes almost like Iron Man, two guys in iron tanks doing this, right, as they were fighting in Martin Short's body.
Right.
And so that's interesting. But I think you could do that. But I think the cutting from the outside to the inside is really fun. So, but it allows when you have a comedian as good as Martin Short, right? So you see Dennis Quaid landing on his optic nerve, and then you get to see Martin Short do his thing.
Yes.
It's just delightful. Or then he's like, you know what? I think I need to be able to kind of hear what's going on. So he's like, I'm going to land on and hook up to your ear. And then Martin Short is like, oh my God, I'm possessed. You can hear Dennis Quaid, and it's such
that scene, by the way, is one of those scenes where it didn't need to be as long as it was, but here you have three SCTV people doing really old school comedy.
Yes.
I mean, they're straight up doing vaudeville.
If you were channel surfing and landed on that part, you'd think you were watching SCTV.
100%. And there's a joy in that, but also because you're so rooting for Martin Short, and it's like, actually, it makes sense that he's hearing a voice and he thinks he's possessed, but it's part of the charm and the tone that Dante really, I think, serves pretty well throughout this.
But in Flaherty and I'm forgetting her name on the right there.
Oh, Andrea Martin,
thank you. They're two straight men working together against Martin Short's crazy in this.
Yeah.
And I think they're so good and they're so joyful, is what you said, about Martin Short doing this part and this lead in this movie. You can't ask for two more supportive actors in you call it a cameo, you call it a bit, whatever. But it's such a fun scene. I really love it.
It's just awesome. But again, it's what you were saying, Todd. It's like Joe Dante clearly loves actors. And that's, directors that allow actors to bring their best and have these moments. I mean, it's just wonderful. But then to pick up on the narrative thread, right? So Martin Short's like, okay, now I believe it. We go through kind of another scene that could have been like 2/3 shorter, electrotronic, whatever. I'm going to blow up your TV. Okay, I guess it's real.
That could have definitely been shorter.
Definitely not funny, doesn't work, but we move on very quickly. And so then it's like, okay, look, Dennis Quaid is this guy. I have to go back to the lab. Dennis is telling me how to get there. So then Martin Short is the ultimate good Samaritan, where he's like, I got to help him, because we learn pretty quickly.
Hang on a sec. We forgot the guy who I think was not necessarily the news as the ticket delivery guy, which I didn't buy for a second. Was the whole scene we could have just cut.
Absolutely. Didn't need it. Because you already had the Terminator wannabe guy who should have just been there.
We don't need this other guy.
Didn't need it all. No payoff. But so I gotta say, so you've got him trying to say, look, there's a problem because Dennis Quaid has told me he's going to run out of air. So now we have a ticking clock. I have about a day to get him out of my body before God, if he blows up, I'm dead. If I don't get him out, he's dead. So now we have a ticking clock, but to your point, very late in the film, this is the thing that you would normally set up around page 15, if in a more disciplined perhaps structure. But here we're just kind of going with it because we're setting up the world and the rules. And so then Martin Short, is working with Dennis Quaid. Quaid says, look out the window, because these two guys he used to work with who he doesn't trust, he can basically hear them through some version of science that we don't think too hard about because it wouldn't happen, but it does. And he realizes these guys aren't on his side. So he says to our little nebbishy nerd, get out of there. Go to my locker, get my hot bomber jacket. You know, Top Gun did come out the year before. You can get, okay, good thing. Here's my car. By the way, I drive a red Mustang because of course I do. And get my apartment. And that's when we get to the aforementioned Ed Grimley delightful dance where the boys get drunk together. That's what you boys do. You get drunk.
Jesus Christ! I just realized I have a clip.
You have a clip?
Yeah. Now, Boris, you know we can't show actual clips from the movie because algorithms shut us down, especially if there's music involved. Right. But I do have an Anderson Family reenactment for this very scene. And again, because I couldn't use the real music, I just made it with my own mouth.
When Todd does the scat music thing, I feel like it just levels it all up. It just historically is true, my friend.
I apologize in advance for my performance.
No, don't never do that.
But please enjoy one of the last you'll see from my son because he's going to.
Oh, Colby.
All right, Jack. Let the good times roll. Twisting, that's twisting, twisting, woo! Twisted child, come on, baby, now, come on, baby, come on, work it on, yeah, work it on, woo! Everybody, just do the twist. Come, baby, hey, it's just like this. Come on, say la vista de folks, just to show you never can tell. Baby, let's do the twist. Twist and shout, twist it up, twisty, twist that, twist it ta, twist it ta, a twisty. How? Come on, baby. Let's do the twist. How? Just about there. Woo! I didn't know dancing could be so much fun.
You should try it with a girl sometime.
Oh my God.
You try it with a girl sometime, yeah.
So good. I love that there are two actors in that family that fully commit to their roles.
Okay, so that scene could have been cut.
Yeah, totally unnecessary.
How much oxygen did Dennis Quaid waste? Did Tuck Pendleton waste while they were dancing? While he's so much around?
Because he was yelling. He said "woo" a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why does Tuck Pendleton only listen to oldies?
I feel like there's some Warner Brother music catalog.
He's specifically obsessed, but both he and Meg Ryan are specifically obsessed with Sam Cooke. It's the Sam Cooke.
Yeah, it's all Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Who I bet is on Warner Brothers at some point.
Well, and that's fine, but I as a human being, I totally relate to wanting to listen to Sam Cooke all the time.
By the way,
I have no problem with that.
One of my all-time favorite songs, "You Send Me Sam Cooke," for the age. No, that man's voice.
Sam Cooke and just his music in general is
delightful
and uplifting. It's just
to your point. In 1987, Joe Dante might have been listening to Sam Cooke. Dennis Quaid probably not. And so this is again like who's writing this and who's.
This is important. That's important. That's one generation bringing their shit to another generation. I would say that doesn't happen enough in movies.
Well, what's funny now is it was only 7 years after Animal House.
That's right. That's right.
And the Sam Cooke scene in Animal, the Huge. Don't Know Much scene is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I also think this is a Gen X thing in terms of we used to have the best film soundtracks. Like the soundtracks would often outgross the films that they, had. Like I think for a lot of us, like Stand By Me, that whole amazing, I learned most of those songs from the Rob Reiner film. I didn't, different era. And so I think like Platoon, I love the Platoon soundtrack, but that was more Motown. China Beach famously used Motown to kind of, right down to the Supremes, Reflections for the title sequence, right?
Yeah.
So,
And Good Morning Vietnam had a lot of that.
Vietnam. So we were growing up learning maybe those classics through the film soundtracks of that era.
Yeah.
And this film absolutely is a reflection, I think, of the filmmakers that, kind of made it's like when I oh God, what was it? The Emerald Saltburn. I was like, it's so fun because there's no version of the characters in Saltburn caring about the Pet Shop Boys Rent. But I can tell you that Emerald, the director, grew up listening to it and was like, this is the perfect song for the scene. And she's right. It's just that the characters wouldn't be listening to that song.
It's really interesting.
Here you go, right? But it's okay because she's doing what Rob Reiner did for us. She's doing for the next generation in that film, I would argue. It's all good.
You know who I think is doing that for people now, for younger people now, is filmmakers like Edgar Wright.
Totally.
And God forbid,
Baby Driver. My God, the music in Baby Driver is half the film.
Yeah, I know. Like these music-driven movies, but they use like Tarantino does it all the time. But just, I think it's a great idea.
Oh, you know what? Jeff brings up a good point. Dennis Quaid played Jerry Lee Lewis. I think a year after this, right? It was around the same era.
Yeah, maybe he did like that old music,
it's
or
possible.
Maybe what he loved was the idea of fucking his cousin.
Yeah, an underage
it's
groomer.
Hard to tell with these
underage groomer like Elvis, and we all forgive it. Fine, it's all good. We're not canceling anybody on this show. So we go on. So we have the situation where we know we're on the run. The men are working together, and enter the great Robert Picardo. Boris, take us home. What is happening with this cowboy character?
I only have theories. So he's some sort of Eastern European arms dealer. When there's something out there, he is the guy that you call to get it done.
Right.
A high tolerance for pain. He loves the Inferno Club. He likes to dress as a cowboy.
Yep.
Weirdly, when he takes Meg Ryan back to their hotel, he's not in her room and doesn't seem to be interested.
No, he's like popping champagne corks in his underwear by himself. It's very odd.
I'm pretty sure it was
know?
like they were trying to do a gay joke, but they didn't like commit to it enough. I don't know.
Oh,
okay. Jeff Luce, Stranger Things brought Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill to a new audience. I think it hit #1. You're right, Jeff. It actually a whole new generation.
And Goo Muck and
Goo Muck.
Yeah, but the difference is like Stranger Things is a show built on nostalgia.
Set in the 80s.
Yeah, right. But it's a little bit different when you make a movie like Baby Driver and you just use music from different eras to propel it. I love Running Up That Hill is a great song. And I enjoy Stranger Things. I'm just saying it's a little bit different. Like if you bring old stuff to a new audience with a story that has a little bit less of a nostalgic impact and a more just like modern story impact.
Well, what they both have in common though, Goo Muck with Wednesday, because Tim Burton fashions himself a goth, right? So that was, a more goth like deep cut. It was never mainstream. And Kate Bush was also very alternative in the 80s. It was the era of Madonna and Prince and Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. Kate Bush was more of a deep cut, or if you were in alt music, because we used to actually not have Clear Channel kids playing along at home. We used to actually have all kinds of things in the top 40 in the 80s. You could have country, you could have rap, you could have hip hop, you can have top 40, and you can have The Cure all together. Mm-hmm. Not that we love the 80s, but we do. But so going back to Innerspace, so you've got this kind of great setup. And this is the part where I think there's a lot of story threads that are trying to come together. Some degrees they do, some lesser than others. Right. But enter our favorite girl, Meg Ryan, where you realize, he's wearing, Quaid's bomber jacket. He shows up in the Mustang. So she immediately says, okay, what's going on? How do you know Tuck?
And he takes his keys.
Takes his keys. And so she does this. But I love that, like, really quickly, you think, oh, she's going to be the reporter girl. And then we got our Terminator guy, and then immediately she has this taser. Like, she's like, Meg Foster in, like, freaking They Live. I'm sure in 1987 women didn't carry this around in their purse, but
no,
it's like this little touch of whimsy and this thing where all of a sudden Meg Ryan has this, like, boom, I'm across the street and I can just and of course she misses and she hits Martin Short, which knocks him out.
Right the name tag.
Yeah, exactly. And so then, she tries, he gets kidnapped, she chases him, he gets thrown into an icebox car, and then the introduction of the great Kevin McCarthy. Look at this shot. Mr. Scrimshaw himself. Boris, tell us about Mr. Scrimshaw.
Okay, so Mr. Scrimshaw is an organized crime character. He has ties to everybody. At one point, he shouts that he knows the mayor. Not a good guy.
He does. I know the mayor.
He has a fun sense of humor because, he's got the fur coat on and the back of the meat truck that he gets kidnapped and put into.
Right.
I don't know what his relationship is with his partner lady. Are they a couple? Are they not? Is she still going to be the cowboy?
Well,
there's a lot of stuff going on.
I'm glad you brought that up because, like, sexy Dr. Joan Severance double, right? The in joke in this children's PG film is that she's a complete nymphomaniac who sleeps with everybody.
Right.
And that's played off in every single scene where he's like, save it. She's like, oh, grabbing a thigh, save it.
Right.
So there's like, and then you see her with the guy with the tools on the hand, and you're like, I don't want to go too deep into that scene, but like they keep playing up.
Yeah.
My question about that is, like, if she's willing to have sex with so many people, how can she be that bad?
Right.
Oh, she's a lover. She's a lover and a uniter.
I think
she
she's a lover. It's
freedom.
Circumstances have pushed her into working because she just wants to keep making love to people, but it's costly to do that. Costs money
for the science.
Right. Yeah,
but then
that's why she steals microchips and
right.
So she can keep loving people.
She can keep loving people at a comfortable level that she enjoys.
Yes. I bet this is just like the gal who wore the Hermes scarves during the COVID pandemic, who did the press conferences. Like, like I'd like to think she had an extra life like that. That would be kind of cool. But my favorite is in another sequence that could be cut in half and would have maybe been a little more potent. We've got an obvious stunt double playing Martin Short getting out of said frozen refrigerated truck because Meg Ryan is driving this such a beautiful Mustang.
That is what Mr. Scrimshaw says in this scene is my favorite line in the movie.
Which one?
Come in here, you Safeway clerk.
So good. So good. But it's a delightful scene where, we've seen it a million times. But
and the motorcycle guy and the whole thing, it's good.
But having the lovely nerd who wants to make good get to do this and not Dennis Quaid, who for most of the movie is confined to just doing this.
Right.
Have Martin Short get to do this is also a nice reversal that I would argue Joe Dante I think Dante probably related a little bit more to Martin Short than he did to Dennis Quaid.
Well, and it's a smart use of actors because Martin Short is physically amazing. He can do all these crazy things. When Colby and I were doing the reenactment earlier today, I said to him, so I want you to capture this. I don't think you can fully capture exactly what he's doing because he's actually an amazing dancer who's dancing poorly on purpose. And that's what's amazing about Martin Short. It's not an easy thing to do. So it's very smart to have Martin Short doing all that stuff and have Dennis Quaid, who's just kind of cute and fine.
He's very cute.
and put him in a fucking pod where he can't move around and
might as well be in a barber chair the whole movie.
But that's what I kind of love about this. And again, in the 80s, Martin Short gets to be the action hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that
growth from nebbish to tough guy.
I mean, he's basically semi a Woody Allen character in this movie who gets to be an action hero. That's a really cool arc. And then you've got Dennis Quaid, who's like, I literally played Gordo, right? You know, in The Right Stuff, who's like, okay, here we have to go to, you know. And I think that's also a lovely reversal. And again, just the way Meg Ryan has a lot of agency and is given fun things to do in this movie, also unusual. These are filmmakers who went out of their way to turn some of these cliches on their head and make it a little bit more modern by 87 standards. So, I mean, points for that. I also love, this is one of my, again, when you talk about sight gags, where you've got someone dressed like a penguin giving two nuns balloons. My other favorite sight gag, right? The clerk that Short has the crush on, they go to Inferno nightclub. Come on. The lighting,
That's great.
the cigarette, and the glasses in the back of someone's hair as if that's normal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous. But then you see that, you know, Meg Ryan is like hearing all the like, you know, pre-Me Too crap from this guy, right?
Yes.
She's trying to get her story. She's a Girl Friday. And then we have a predicament, right? Because it's like Meg Ryan says to Martin Short, follow me. He's taking me back to the hotel. So you're like,
a lasso dance, though. I will stop anything for a lasso dance.
a lasso dance.
Hey, everybody. Hillary wanted to say hi. She didn't get to. Here she is.
I didn't get to. Sad, even though my stepdad Bob was in the movie.
I love that we honored it. We had the picture up earlier in the broadcast so we could capture that.
Thank you so much.
It's such a cool thing. The crimper got made for yes. This whole movie, Hillary, did you see this in the theater?
That's a really good question. I feel like I rented it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a big rental movie. I
it.
saw it in the theater, but
I was so waiting for this movie. I remember seeing it, like to Todd's point earlier, I remember seeing the trailer maybe 5-6 months out, and I was like, like, you know, I was like, oh, it's the guy from The Right Stuff who was so cute. I was like all in to Dennis Quaid, and then I thought this film was just a delight.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Get that cat out of here.
Get that cat out of here.
So then we have this issue,
Goodbye.
right? Bye. Oh my God, I can't with cuteness. So then, you know, it's like we've got this predicament. We're like, what are we going to do? They capture the cowboy. They knock him out. They tie him up in the bathtub.
I actually felt bad for him.
Yeah.
He was such an enjoyable character. I felt bad that he was like knocked out in his underwear.
Yeah.
Boots still on.
Not dignified.
Because anyway, I felt
He
bad.
just wanted to have gay sex with Martin Short, and then they did all that awful stuff to him. Yeah. Right.
So then this is where, again, I think taking the Fantastic Voyage and leveling it up to 87 standards, Dennis Quaid's like, I've got an idea. He pulls out this book, which I'm sure if we zoomed in would just be nothing. And he's like, I think, because you should trust me because I'm a pilot, I'm looking through a book and I can change your face, which again allows the great Martin Short to do his thing where he then will keep his like fun hair, but look like the cowboy. And then Meg Ryan, who's just so Rosalind Russell, I'm here for the sight gag fun. Like she and Picardo having this moment on screen, it just makes me so happy. And it was so seamless that you believe like I'm watching Martin Short, but I'm aware that it's Robert Picardo, and Meg Ryan is just on point. And
the effects were so needed, and this is pre-Total Recall too.
Yes, it is. That's right.
Oh wow!
I feel like they were doing a lot of it with just like speeding up the film, and then also having a fan blow in somebody's face so he could go out. Yeah,
like the Memorex.
It was like a marriage of practical effects and in-camera effects that were
just
cool.
The fun that they are clearly having being silly. I would like to see this come back to Hollywood movies. Like
silly would be great.
Yeah, like fun,
like fun silly, not creepy silly, not
creepy silly,
not
not
creepy
weird.
silly, like silly, like you don't like a Wet Hot American Summer or an Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
Bring it on! Like I don't need to hear treaties.
Or this,
yeah. We don't need treaties on like childless cat ladies. Like stop. No. It's like let's have fun and be this joyful. But then you have this scene, which is one of my favorite moments.
Oh.
Where the great Kevin McCarthy has his dog is like Jote beg, never beg.
Never beg.
I just was like, That is so crazy. And again, because Dante loves genre, Dante knows what he's doing. He's cast the lead from the 56 Don Siegel Invasion of the Body Snatchers as the villain. And he he's probably delighted to direct this classic actor.
I don't know what it is, but why is he all white? And why is his dog all white? And why is he in the back of an ice truck? What is his...
It's so good. Well, remember the first time we see him, the dog is laying on a desk in a warehouse that's like with a pink light.
Just
You're like,
weird little...
oh my God, what are you doing? It's so batshit. I loved it.
But I think the whiteness thing is clear that white is bad. White supremacy is bad. Anyone who's that dedicated to whiteness is a piece of shit.
1987.
It was a clear signal. I mean, back then we grew up, Gen X, we grew up, and Nazis were bad guys. It was just a fucking given.
Yeah, we didn't actually question it.
We didn't question it. We didn't go, oh, is there, multi-layers to these bad guys?
Sure. No.
But also, I think you can look at it as an elegant flip, the way we talked about with all the other characters. Like, the bad guys wear black, the bad guy wears white.
Right.
You know? And it's so, but there's a fun moment. So
Chuck Norris started that. Chuck Norris started that.
He started a lot of things. So we basically, they go in, Meg and Martin Short, and blah, 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 blah. So they capture them. And then we have this great moment where the Nevish gets to be every guy in the 80s. I get to kiss Meg Ryan. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this cool moment where you're like, oh my God, character wise, I'm so happy for him. And she looks at him, I'm sorry, movie star. But it also, from a plot standpoint, he transfers Dennis Quaid Jack through the kiss because he got so excited.
Right.
So for a split second, right, we have Dennis Quaid inside Meg Ryan a little bit, which is awkward because then we find out she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And we get this reaction. It is the Reagan era, after all. We're celebrating, out of wedlock kids in a family film because that was okay back then.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a period of peace.
Government employee.
Government employee.
I mean, it's okay for a guy to be happy that he got someone pregnant.
No, I'm just saying it's like I had to sit through Katherine Heigl and Knocked Up. I just don't.
Yeah, but not until later.
He says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And it's like, you just pulled, a bottle of Southern Comfort out of a motorcycle engine. You had booze hitting around your apartment. That's why she didn't tell you.
Hey Tracy, I'm gonna producer you right now.
Yeah, we'll go through this. So basically,
get me through the rest of this in 2 minutes, so we can.
I can do it. I can do it in less than a minute. Meg's done because she gets herself out of jeopardy. She puts the freak shows into this little thing, and they wind up being shrunk. Fast as you can say, foul play. We steal a scene in San Francisco like foul play, where our two leads are going down Lombard Street, and we have a miniaturized sexy girl and Kevin. Who are hiding out. Somehow our two leads don't see them. But then we cut inside. Dennis Quaid is fighting with our road warrior dude. We see that he's attached himself to the Explorers 2.0 version of this deck. And one of my favorite moments was, how do we dispatch Vinny in Martin Short's body, who was like Iron Man, Jeff, Bridges fighting guy. He's like, well, we're going to go into the stomach. And, because hashtag acid. So we play this for laughs, where his skin's burned off to a skeleton because again, PG-13. Oh, remember, there's that ticking clock. Our cute guy, he's gonna be completely starved of oxygen and gonna die. So what happens? Martin Short goes back to the lab. And he's like, I'm allergic. I'm that Woody Allen guy. I have allergies. And he sneezes in a really gross moment. He is expelled through his nose onto this guy's glasses. We take that and we basically, because we've also stolen a key, Dennis Quaid gets to be brought back into real life and real size. We quickly go to the American happy ending, apparently, when you're married and you're white and it's all good. But there is a twist. We have Robert Picardo as the limo driver to said newlyweds limousine. And what does he have? He's got our little mutant shrunk bad guys from the film in the trunk. Martin Short passes this guy very quickly and then realizes, oh my God, that was the cowboy. He gets in Dennis Quaid's car, his Mustang, which apparently he just owns now. And we get to fade out on Martin Short being the last, if not nebbishy, action hero. And all is good.
with a Rod Stewart cover of some
with a
kind.
Rod Stewart cover.
There
It's
was a-
absolutely
There
delightful.
was a great joke in the sneeze part where he says, "I need hairspray," and someone hands him mousse, and he goes, "Not mousse, I need hairspray." That was
This is an 80s joke.
That was so good. I love
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And
Movies
mousse was
need
readily
more-
available in 1987.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an all-time great line from this movie. You did it, Jack. You just digested the bad guy. Hashtag correct Jeff Lush.
With
Absolutely.
the burp also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an amazing movie. It's probably half an hour too long, but when you like it this much, who cares really?
Right.
We'll never make this kind of movie again. That makes me sad, but also like, okay, then let's do something equally as cool now with whatever.
I don't know that for sure.
I do. I think we're not making gun jokes in a mall shooting people with a small child dressed with an AR-15. I think that's not
cigarettes
happening.
on plane jokes. So I don't remember when cigarettes became illegal on planes. I think it was much earlier than 87. But the cowboy trying to light up his cigar on the plane.
Extras in the mall are smoking in the mall
Wow.
inside. I'm like, oh my God. Like
Planes didn't lose smoking until the 90s.
Okay. Yeah, I only use Andrew Dice Clay as my timeline for that.
Yeah.
Well,
At this timeline, there was still the smoking section in the plane, which didn't fucking matter because
there
it's a
was
plane.
Yeah.
It's just like having, like, they should have now, like, people who have COVID sections and people
Sure.
who don't have COVID sections.
Yeah.
What difference would it make?
Exactly. So Boris, take us home. Final thoughts. People who haven't seen Innerspace, why should they? And how did it feel for you to revisit it now that you're
It felt great. It was exciting. The intro is exciting. They do the Warner Brothers logo, and then they get like right to it. There's the song and the party. It's an action film, it's a sci-fi film, and it's a comedy. So all those three things are great. It's shot really well. Everyone is likable. All the co-stars are likable. It moves.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours, but it moves. I mean,
Yes.
we can pinpoint stuff to close, to cut, but it moves, and then you end up feeling happy.
Yeah.
And even though he's chasing him, no need for a sequel. It's fine as is.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's a great point too. No sequel doesn't need a sequel.
If they want to
Shouldn't
make
have.
one now, I'd watch it now with the same cast though. Has to be the same cast.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but I don't want Dennis Quaid getting any more work. So I'm gonna not sign off on that.
But I think it's fair to say, like, look, when you have Kennedy Marshall, Peter Goobers, and Steven Spielberg, like, do we really need all of them producing the same film? I'm just saying they're all masters in their field. Okay, but they're all on this movie. So let's credit where credit is due. But
some of them are on more cocaine than others.
Yes, but there is a little detail where Dennis Quaid is wearing the cufflink with the thing that can regenerate if you want to shrink again.
Right. So I guess that's why they're still chasing them.
And then
they'd already lost.
Right.
It's over.
But they didn't, because you've got Kevin McCarthy and sexy scientist lady who can regenerate, and you have the ability to do that. So there could have been a sequel. These producers, even in 87, were starting to do sequels. That was the beginning of the too many sequels problem.
Right.
And this film just, if we're honest, I think it tapped out at like 25 million. It didn't do great at the box office, but it didn't make a sequel. I agree with you. We didn't need one, but they did try to lay some track in case somebody wanted to do one. But I like that even though they didn't have one, our fade out image is the great Martin Short. The nerd gets to be the hero, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, because he grew so much.
Yeah.
But then he paid for their wedding, or he gave them his cruise as a wedding gift.
Yeah, he gave them their cruise. That's not fair. It's like, this guy is still going to be a mean drunk.
I love in movies when like romance or whatever is a subplot, and regardless of the gender of the person, but like whether it be a woman or a man, they say at the end, "Thank you, Tess." They say,
"Show creator, show creator."
You're just gonna hold me back. I'm effing off into the future. I just love that message. I love that message that like, and I'm pro romance. I'm all about romance. It's just something fun about somebody.
I like Titanic, bitches.
Yeah, totally. I don't, But yeah,
I know no one does. It's not
but-
cool to like it, but I do.
No, a lot of people.
That's probably
Yeah,
why
Titanic's like
One
the
more
second
thing,
biggest movie after Avatar, right?
one flaw about the movie that I pick up stupid details and I refuse to let him go. If he's able to put a bottle, his flask, out of the pod without the ship imploding because it has like a an airlock or whatever,
Right.
can't he just open the airlock for air now and then? Like
Oh.
open it, close it, get some more air.
No, it's only built to receive alcohol. It's
No,
like
it's only built to receive Southern Comfort because that was the
Right.
product placement. The
shitty
Warner Brothers.
booze.
Amazing. Tess asks a good question. What about outer space? Wasn't that a thing?
No, outer space was never a thing. I don't know what Tess is talking about. She's
I
going
haven't even
crazy.
heard of it.
We are living in outer space.
She's out of it.
Not true. Okay, so Todd, should we preview? We have a brand new.
Do you want to start with that or finish?
Oh, let's finish with that. You're right. That's
Yeah,
better.
you're right. Let's do
All
that.
right.
Our classic Be Bad or Be Best.
Be bad, be best. I'll go first.
All right, Boris, we're going to give you titles of movies and you decide whether they're so bad they shouldn't be watched or they're so bad you have to watch them.
Okay.
Okay, and if you haven't seen it or it's been a minute, you can judge the title, the actors, the font, the color.
Yeah, you can judge it. It doesn't matter if you don't know.
We play fast and loose on this show.
We live in America. You can judge shit without education.
I'm
Absolutely.
judging people driving by right now.
I've never read that book. Let's ban it because hashtag I don't know. Anyway, so I'm kidding. That was a joke. All right. So my Be Bad, Be Best, Mr. Boris. Guest goes first. This also is a Dennis Quaid, 1983, aforementioned maybe 3 times previously on this PG-13 special. Chuck Russell giving us Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid and Kate Capshaw.
Shout out to Chuck Russell.
Chuck Russell. And this is to be interesting. I think this actually ties in because in this movie, Dennis Quaid goes into the president's mind to try to stop an assassin from killing him in his sleep because the whole concept is if you die in your sleep, you die in real life. Yep. So Dennis Quaid goes into the president's brain to try to fight an assassin in his brain, as opposed to being Fantastic Voyage Light in the Joe Dante film we are here tonight to talk about. Dreamscape. Boris, Be Bad, Be Best. What you think?
I've never seen it, so be bad.
Ooh, Be Bad violence.
Yeah, Be Bad. I was never a huge Kate Capshaw fan.
Yeah, I like Amy Irving very much, though.
Capshaw is so offensive to you.
In an unrelated comment, I liked Amy Irving very much. Crossing Clancy.
And then we've been talking about him in all his other movies, but Dennis Quaid, he was never a superstar.
No, he wasn't.
And that Indiana Jones style poster doesn't really,
I mean, I think this poster art is amazing, but I see what you're saying.
I'd rather watch I Road to China.
Oh
yeah, it's misrepresenting.
Similar poster art, and not to be too judgmental, but since the fellas are, there's a lot of pants stuffing going on in this poster. I'm just gonna leave that there for y'all.
And who's hiding behind Dennis Quaid? Willie Ames? What's going on there?
Oh my God. Willie Ames. I don't know, but I will tell you. Okay, so yours is Be Bad. I saw this in the theater. I thought it was such a cool idea. I loved it. I think it's a Be Best. It gave me nightmares because I saw it on the big screen, and there's a sequence. I'm not going to give anything away, even though it's been out since '83, so get with it, people. But there's a sequence where Dennis Quaid goes on a train that's going through the present, and it looks like a hellscape. And the villain is there, and Quaid is there, and it's kind of a face-off moment. And there is a cobra situation. I won't give too many details. It's
called a snake man, Tracy. A snake man.
I'm just saying, if you saw this as a little kid of a certain age on the big screen and the cobra came up, it gave me nightmares. I remember that very vividly. I don't think it holds up, but I really like the idea behind this film. Dennis is full coked, hot, washboard, everything again. But Capshaw is almost irrelevant in this movie, like most blondes were, as opposed to Meg Ryan in the film we are here to talk about tonight. She does not give him much to do. It's like when Ridley Scott puts her in Black Rain. She's like, Sato's a really mean guy. I run a bar like I'm Diane Lane in The Perfect Storm, or perhaps Jennifer Connelly in Maverick. It's
right.
But like, Kate Capshaw is always better than what she's given, I think. But this, she's nothing to do with this. It's all about Quaid, but the concept of going into the mind to solve save an assassination for a president, I thought was so cool when I was like, I don't know, 12. Anyway, I like it, but I thought it was so weird that like a couple years after Quaid does Dreamscape, he does Innerspace, where he's gone into a brain of a president and then a body of a scientist. And I'm like, I don't know if that was part of the era. One could also say, which we didn't talk about tonight, but I think Martin Short is so great because he's kind of possessed by Dennis Quaid in certain parts. And then he plays Robert Picardo in others because he's a boss. But this was also the era that gave us All of Me with Steve Martin.
Right.
With Lily Tomlin making Steve Martin doing his crazy thing. So there was a kind of, we did body switches movies like Freaky Friday and Big and All of Me. And there was a variant of a sci-fi twist that I think Innerspace does and Dreamscape does. So somehow in the 80s, we were doing mainstream studio films that had a variation on these themes, which is interesting that we
happy feet, lots of happy feet.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing when I think about it. But anyway, so Todd, what did you think? Did you like Dreamscape?
I do like Dreamscape, mostly because it's got that guy from the Warriors who says,
"Oh my God,
Warriors, come out and play," and he
Yeah.
turns into the giant snake man.
He is so.
I love it. I say if you haven't seen Dreamscape and you like fantasy movies with a horror tinge, it's very fun. I'm going to give you my Be Bad, Be Best if you're ready.
Jeff Luce, for those listening and not seeing, has pointed out Dreamscape is available on Tubi and Peacock. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Thank you, Jeff.
There it is. My Be Bad, Be Best is another movie with Martin Short.
Oh, man.
It's also got Steve Martin, who Martin Short works with quite frequently, and Chevy Chase, a guy who neither of them work with anymore. It's called Three Amigos. I saw this in the theater. I've owned it on VHS, standard DVD, and Blu-ray. I don't get sick of it. Boris, is it Be Bad or Be Best?
Honestly?
Please.
Boris!
I've got it as a Be Bad.
Oh!
It never really gets moving. You know, maybe because I like the Magnificent Seven a little too much.
Fair.
You know, and even in this movie, like, there are Chevy Chase movies where I do like him. This is like the beginning of, you know, I think this is after Spies Like Us, and I'm just like losing interest in this guy, and he's just not really, you know. There's a few gags that work, like where, you know, the dust is coming out of the canteen, and then the one guy throws it with the water coming out of it. But then Sam Kinison was cut from it, which is I always wanted to see that scene. And then it's just like John Lovitz isn't good in it. It's not. Yeah, you know, I would watch it on an airplane.
I'm not. I understand Chevy Chase is a piece of shit human being, but just him trying to eat taco and all the food falling out of it, and him genuinely asking to the people around the table in Mexico, "Do you have anything besides Mexican food?"
Yes.
Is fucking hilarious to me. I mean, I think
funny. And the tequila, it's like beer. That's funny.
Yeah.
But that's not 90 minutes of funny.
I get you. Where are you with this one, Tracy?
Boris has made me rethink what I was going to say. I will say this. I loved all three of these men growing up. I watched this film twice in the theaters.
Probably in the theater.
Probably too many times on cable, alone, latchkey, Gen X kid. I liked it a lot. I haven't revisited it since before college. So I'm going to maybe agree with Boris. There's nothing about this that made me revisit it, but my initial instinct was, it must be best because I liked it as a kid. I think if I rewatched it because of the Chevy Chase, again, before we knew he was bad for us. But what I do love is that Steve Martin and Martin Short are still working together in Murders in the Building. And I hope the rumors are true. I hope that recently divorced Meryl Streep is really with Martin Short, because I love that so hard. It's the happy ending to Innerspace I would have liked for him. Get the great blonde.
And don't forget, there's a scene in the movie where
there's no way.
Randy Newman is a singing bush.
Yes.
And he gets shot.
Yeah.
No, they don't shoot the singing bush. They shoot the invisible horseman.
Oh, okay.
So Randy Newman is singing as the singing
Yes,
bush,
singing
and
guy.
they have to do this chant. And then Chevy Chase instead of firing his gun into the air, he fires it sideways, which you shouldn't do.
Another
Ever.
reason not like Chevy Chase.
And he kills the invisible horseman.
Which one was he?
By
Was
the
he
way,
lucky?
that's
Was
so
he?
funny.
Was he lucky or dusty?
He was Dusty
Okay.
Bottoms.
Dusty Bottom.
Oh, wow. That seems like a coked out porn star, no?
Yeah, it's a great name for a stupid cowboy and a stupid cowboy movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to my friend Boris here. I think it's probably it'd be bad. If I watched it, I'd probably be enraged. So.
I disagree with you guys. It's very funny.
Oh my god, it's a fight. Okay.
Let's fight. Let's watch Three Amigos, and then as soon as it's over, we'll rumble.
All right. Hot.
It's time for the boost. We're gonna champion movies from the past, present, future that we think you should watch.
We can go into the future, y'all.
Yeah, I might. I don't know. It
I
could be
almost
crazy.
did. I don't know.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You go first.
All right, here's mine, and I'm sticking to the Martin Short thing, and this is going to be probably more controversial than Three Amigos.
Oh shit.
This is in a forgotten movie with Martin Short and Danny Glover called Pure Luck.
Oh my god.
Wow.
This is a PG-13 movie from the late 80s. I love it. I think it's so funny, and the reason why I think it's so funny is, well, Danny Glover is the perfect straight man to Martin Short's guy who has, and the character is a person who has the worst luck ever. Like, he doesn't have good luck. He only has bad luck. And Danny Glover's detective winds up using him because he used to date the person he's trying to find. I think there are certain sequences in this that are absolutely hilarious. Pointedly, I will say there's this one scene where Martin Short and Danny Glover are sitting down at a diner and they're just meeting for the first time. And Danny Glover has been saddled with this person who's related to the person he's trying to find in this investigation. And the whole reason is because this guy's got really bad luck and he knows her. And he's got such bad luck, it might lead you to him. It's a cockamamie concept. It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't matter.
Dad loved it too. So
yes. So there's this moment where Martin Short goes up to the bathroom while at the diner, and Danny Glover grabs another salt shaker from a table, and he unscrews one salt shaker, right? And so there's one that if he picks it up, it'll be fine, and the other one is going to dump all over his food. So Martin Short gets back to the table. He picks up the one that's screwed on tightly. And Danny Glover's like, yeah, I knew this is bullshit. And right as about Martin Short is about to put that salt onto his food, a person next door to them goes, hey, can I have some salt? Our table doesn't have any salt.
Oh, no.
And Martin Short goes, yeah, no problem. And then Martin Short picks up the unscrewed one, dumps a pile of salt onto his food, and with no emotional reaction whatsoever, just brushes it off and continues with the conversation. It is the funniest thing I've ever seen in a movie. It's just some of the best character work I've ever seen, comedically speaking.
Wow.
His reaction is unbelievable. Because you know how Martin Short is so sweet, right?
Yeah, he is.
So you can imagine him getting, and he does get mad in some of his movies, but you can imagine him getting so frustrated and mad that he would blow his top. But here he's like a person so accustomed to bad luck that it's just what I deal with.
Amazing. Okay. Well, Mr. Boris.
Have you seen it?
I have not. Now I want to.
Yeah.
Okay, good. There we are. Have you seen it, Tracy?
I haven't. I remember the poster. I didn't see it. But I feel like anytime someone was smart enough to put the great Danny Glover, despite supporting Bernie Sanders, together with Martin Short, like I should see that.
Yeah,
I'd rather see that than Danny Glover and Joe Pesci.
I'd rather see that than Bernie Sanders.
Then going fishing, you'd rather see pure luck. Actually, you're right, because I saw Going Fishing before I saw this and I hated it, so I was resistant to pure luck. And so when I finally saw it, I was like, oh shit, that's just a fun. It's very light. It's not the kind of movie that you're going to be busting out laughing, crying, but there are a few moments that you might laugh, cry, but just in general, it's just a light, fun PG-13 movie from that era. I like Grumpy Old Men type of deal.
I might need to watch that because I think I'm so loving watching these films from an era that Grumpy Old Man. Again, Grumpy Old Men. It's like in the sequel too. Like you have Mathau and Lemon and Anne Margaret. I don't care what they do. I want to watch them. I miss that. If you put great people together, which will lead into as a segue to another format we're going to say tonight, but I will check that out. The film I want to boost tonight, I don't usually do this because I like to look back because I worry that so many of my favorite films are ignored or forgotten or haven't been seen. The film that I wanted to boost tonight in my boost with our Fox News ticker, I want to talk about a film that is in theaters right now. I believe I think it's the second week that it's been out in theaters. I missed it the first week. I just saw it this weekend. It's an independent film. It's called Strange Darling.
I hear good things about this.
Here's
good things too.
Here's what I want to say about Strange Darling. I had a couple people in my life that I trust who said, I went to the premiere. I'm not going to tell you about this movie. I had never seen a trailer for it because it's an indie. Don't watch a trailer. Don't read a review. Don't Google it. Just go see the movie. And I was like, well, we're in 2024. It's going to be very hard for me to not see this. And then I thought, well, it's an independent film. Probably no one's talking about it because there's no advertising dollars. So I and my bestie, Jimmy Radasta, from college, were in town. He was in town this weekend. And went to the Alamo Draft House, and I said, hey, Jimmy, I had 3 of my friends were at the premiere. They said, this is a really important film, and I don't know what it's about. I didn't ask, and I was told not to do that. So we went in completely blind. I can't talk about this film without giving anything away specifically. The reason I want to boost it is I want everybody who is watching this, just trust me. This is a gritty, I would argue, exploitation film that is impeccably directed, beautifully produced, will make you really uncomfortable, whether you're a man or a woman. It challenges the spectrum. Post Me Too, post all the stuff that we would never do with Innerspace. Now, this film goes for dark places. I'm not giving anything away that's not on the poster, so I feel like I can say the great Barbara Hershey, the great Ed Begley Jr. appear in this, but the real star-making performance is Willa Fitzgerald, who plays the female lead, aforementioned in this. And if you're too young, you might go, oh, is she just Sydney Bristow from like Alias? Don't do that with the poster art. This film is very complicated. It will haunt you. It is really smart. And if you hate it, I would ask yourself what you're reacting to, because it challenges men, women, sexual norms, violence, and exploitation. And you were in the hands with this JT Mahler guy who's making a really great film. And here's the weird thing. It's produced by Giovanni Ribisi, and Giovanni Ribisi's the DP.
Yeah, I read that.
Great. Wow. So it's this weird movie.
Finally, he's behind the camera. Ooh.
Don't read anything. Don't watch the trailer. Just go see the movie like you were in the 70s or 80s without a newspaper, because there's something very special here. And this director, I want to see the next film. The great Dana Guerin, who's been a reoccurring guest on our program, produced an early film by this filmmaker. This guy has leveled up since then, and I suspect he will be, like when you saw early Fincher, you saw this is a director to pay attention to. I don't want to say any more than that with the plot. This film has really shook me and shocked me, and I'm still digesting it. And I wanted to boost it because I was like, oh my God. It's
that, I mean, I already had this movie on my list, but it was on my list as to wait the 17 days until it comes out to streaming.
Don't See it.
You're saying it's theatrically important.
I will say when I saw it again, Alamo Drafthouse ostensibly is a movie buff place. It's been a long time since I've seen movie buffs go. Like there's at least 5 reversals where you're like, what the fuck? And depending on who you are and how you see, I'm just going to say sexual relationships, you're going to have different reactions. This is the movie you go see it with people you love and you care about, get a couple cocktails, and then just spend the night talking about it. And the fact that there is a movie that's new, not based on IP, with an independent voice that we can talk about, even if you hate it, it's worth your time. I think most people love it.
I will see it. So, new segment.
New segment.
When bad films happen to good actors.
Yeah. We have retired the indie effect for now. It might come back. You don't know.
Because it's too hard to think of those.
It's too hard to think of those, and we're not 100% bought in on the thesis, but we kind of liked it, so we did it for a minute.
I love it. It's hard to think of it.
It's hard to think of it, but what I'm starting to notice, and again, going back to the premise that, Boris brought us this amazing movie tonight where you're like, oh my God, we couldn't make this movie today, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but it makes me sad in a weird Gen X way. There are so many forces at work to get a film financed in our time. And it usually is about pretending certain people can open movies. I'm not convinced we have a lot of movie stars anymore, but I know that we have a lot of great actors.
We have IP.
We have a lot of great actors. And
that's why they're trying to make Glenn Powell a star in the age of IP. And it won't work. It won't. It's just and like Scars.
If he keeps movies, it'll work. But yeah, I hear you.
I just don't.
You feel about Glenn Powell the way I do about Timothée Chalamet. I get it.
No, I feel that way about Timothée Chalamet too. Like these guys are like A-list actors out of the gate. They never did a B movie in their life. I didn't see them coming up in B movies. What they do is one thing, and they're pretty. They're very pretty, and I won't disregard that.
To be fair,
even though it doesn't matter to me because I'm heterosexual, but I get it. They're gorgeous, but they don't bring anything interesting to anything.
I won't even go there with Chalamet, but I will say for Glenn Powell, he's been kicking around for 15 years. Maverick put him on the map, but when you go back and watch Hidden Figures, because you didn't know who he was then, he's really good in that. He actually, I think he's going to be a person who's going to be around for a while. But regardless,
I thought it was really two-dimensional in that movie. I know I've been aware of Glenn Powell since. I'm a guy who just wanted Glenn Powell's early career. So I'm very aware of it.
But he's been around for a while, and like Chalamet,
he's super pretty.
He has worked his way up. But regardless, this new thing we want to try out tonight, when bad films happen to good people, I texted Todd this week, and I said, Todd, because again, my bestie Jimmy was in town from college, and I said, this is the problem. I didn't see it in the theater because not to Eli Roth directed it. It's weird that I didn't love it, but like I didn't see it in the theater despite my absolute unadulterated fangirl love for Jamie Lee Curtis and Cate Blanchett. And so the film I want to talk about tonight, which was out like 10 seconds ago and bombed, and you can now stream if you want to waste money.
10% on Rotten Tomatoes. 10%.
10%, which is, I'm going to say generous. Borderlands, Chaos Loves Company. I'm here to tell you, because I'm a snob, there's no version that we ever need Kevin Hart, Cate Blanchett, and Jamie Lee Curtis in the same frame. That's all you need.
On that too?
She is, and we love Gina Gershon. Yeah, so you waste Gina Gershon. If you like Kevin Hart, he's wasted. Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis are impeccable. And
so he's wasted only if you like him, as opposed
to me, I don't get him. So I'm like, yeah, you suck here again. But if you like Kevin Hart, you'll love him in this because he does the same thing. So I throw that out for Kevin Hart fans. I don't get it. I don't have to. He's not made for me. He's a little short for a stormtrooper. But what I'm saying is that Borderlands is everything that is wrong with American filmmaking. It is based on IP. It is based on a video game I can give a shit about. And I'm going to promise you, anyone who played Borderlands doesn't give a shit about Jamie Lee Curtis or Cate Blanchett. Here's what's fun about this movie. If you're a nerd who loves bad movies, hashtag we are on my favorite shitty movie. Cate Blanchett is basically playing Cherry 2000. Melanie,
that's right.
classic
I
film,
get
right?
that.
Same haircut, same outfit. I don't know if Kate was aware of that because she was probably, being educated at the time and not wasting her time with Cherry 2000, which I love. But I think Kate was like, I just did Tar and I've done esoteric awesomeness and whatever. And I think Eli Roth is supposed to be a popular filmmaker and video games are supposed to be cool. And I'm about to be 50 and I have to try to be relevant. So on paper, I get why CAA was going to be like, do this. But from a fangirl point of view, Jamie Lee has an Oscar. Cate Blanchett has an Oscar. Eli Roth is Eli Roth. And then there's an IP video game situation, and everybody looks bad in this movie. I've not seen Cate Blanchett give a bad performance except for Crystal Skull, where she's embarrassing. This is almost that. And Jamie Lee makes choices in this movie that I think some people might think are not good, but I had a fondness for the choices she makes because I think she has nothing to play. And I think she made a specific choice and it kind of charmed my heart. And when I was watching it, I was like texting Todd and I was like, Todd, I love everyone in this movie. Maybe not Kevin Hart as much, but everybody else. And it's nah. And then I thought, you actors, you are often pawns in a game you can't control and you're asked to do things you shouldn't have to do. And when two Oscar winners are asked to slum in an Eli Roth film that makes no fucking sense, I said, I think maybe we should do a new thing called When Bad Films Happen to Good People. And this is my inaugural address going, I just hope they all got good houses because they certainly weren't entertaining themselves nor giving performances.
They got their Jaws the Revenge House. I agree.
Jaws the Revenge House. But I want to say I love all these actors, maybe Kevin Hart less, but everybody else. And I just feel like, I don't know. And I was just saying nice things about Eli Roth with Thanksgiving. And now I feel like I should have stuck to my guns because this one.
The thing that I don't understand about this movie is why would you hire Eli Roth to make a movie version of a very violent hard R video game, and
but it's not even
force him to make it PG-13? It's just
it's dumb.
You can see the bad decisions.
And there's a hot young girl who wears bunny ears. Jeff will know who the actress is. I don't because I'm old. I was like, she might be interesting in another movie. I really resent the budget they had for this. And even though they had a budget, the effects are awful. So it's like, it makes me crazy because I'm like, man, I just turned a film I've been working on for 8 years into an Irish film to get it made. If I had like the craft service budget of this film, I'm jealous. And I just don't understand how you wait. If you're wasting Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It's a management.
Bad films happen to good actors.
Tracy, yes, it's a management problem. I'm going to wrap this up really fast because we've been going on for so goddamn long. My bad movies happening to good actors, I had to dig into my VHS collection to get this. And I say unapologetically, I love Rae Dawn Chong. I miss Rae Dawn Chong. She was in so many good movies in the 80s and early 90s. And I don't know what happened to her, but we don't see her enough anymore. But then there was this movie called Amazon with her and Robert Davi. It's very low budget. Like, it looks like total garbage. She's really good. Robert Davi is Robert Davi. It's a bad movie. And it's like when I see a good actor like Rae Dawn Chong, and she was in a lot of bad movies, no doubt.
But she was always great. She was always great.
She was always good. She delivered. She's an actress. She delivers fucking shit. If she signs on for something, she'll do whatever it is written. This movie, it's just she's floundering. Like, she's good, but then like all this other garbage is happening around her that makes no sense. So you're like, oh, poor Rae Dawn Chong. She's trying to make this good, but an actor can't make a thing good. So God bless her for Amazon. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. Yeah, that.
Boris, what do you want to say to the people as we wrap this up? Should they look for you in some place? Should they buy something that you would make money off of?
No, they should look for Radon Chong and tell her to call
Yeah.
me. That's what needs to happen. I've got nothing going on. I'm here.
Yeah,
Hey, everybody.
I'll be here too. I'm the same way.
It's a time, fellas.
Yeah.
Forrest, thank you so much for coming back on this. I know you had like no lead time.
I was happy to do it. And you know, we all agree it's not a shitty movie, but it's a movie that we love. There are some things that can be tightened up, but overall, it's a good movie.
It
totally
really is. And I just feel like one of the things I love about the show, and I have to give my partner like massive props because Todd brings it. He books a few more guests than I do, but Todd as an actor, he's the guy who's directing and producing and editing all the enactments, y'all. So don't take that for granted. He's doing that.
And tonight was solid.
Usually acting in them as he's doing all that. So I just want to, I'm not really excited about a lot of the films I'm seeing on streaming or theaters, which is why I wanted to boost Strange Darling, because it really moved me and upset me in ways that were interesting. And Jimmy and I were both like, because we didn't know what we were walking into, which is the best thing I can say. And I said to him, because we were in college together and we used to go see all these films. I mean, I took Jimmy to go see The Following, the first Christopher Nolan movie, if anyone cared. I was like, that guy. Like, and I was like, when was the last time I felt this upset in a good way? I like being challenged by filmmakers. And what I love about the show, and I think Todd really is the spine of this show in many ways, he keeps it going. He does so much of the work and the tech stuff that you guys don't see or hear if you're watching us. But every Wednesday I get to talk with somebody who really loves film and is a really gifted actor. And we get to go, you know what? Like, it's not great right now, but it could be great again. And part of the thing that's being cool about Gen X is like, we grew up in a golden time. And Boris, you landed a movie that is the spirit of what we're trying to do here. Thank you, Tess, for creating this show and this safe space for us to be like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to see Despicable Me 4. I'm sorry, I don't. I want to talk to my friend Todd about anything else. And I want people like Boris to come on and be like, remember when we felt good about, I don't know, life, ourselves, or movies? And that's what's so great. So maybe it's a generational thing. And I just want to leave on a high note. Like, I just like, so.
I don't think it is. I like just witnessing my kid introduces his friends to so many movies.
You're a great dad.
Because of the movies that we introduced him to. And, sometimes we showed him R-rated movies a little too early.
No such thing.
Stuck with him, and he wants to share it with people. And I think that's what it's about. Just like the give of, I loved this movie, try it. And if you're honest about it, like we were honest about Innerspace tonight, nobody's walking into it with a confused that will they be disappointed because I was expecting this other thing.
Right. And here's the thing, and maybe this applies to politics and personal relationships and jobs and whatever. It's okay to only like things 70, 80% and not cancel the 10 or 15% and be angry, because if you're just going to be angry and get hung up on one thing, you might miss a lot of fun, like Innerspace. I mean, there are a handful of jokes that I know I have moms that would not like, and I'm like, I'm sorry for you, because Joe Dante has a good heart, and this is a swell movie. Swell is a very 1940s term, and it's okay to actually have fun, and we don't have to agree all the time. If you find a political candidate you agree with 70%, say thank you. Like, stop this. Show up, vote for the greater good, support film. I'm again going to say it again, Strange Darling, see it in the theater. See it in the theater and don't read a damn thing about it. And we can do a sideshow later. My favorite shitty movie, After Hours, is not a shitty movie. But
Super
like,
7 needs to see this and make Innerspace action figures.
Yes, I agree. I want the NECA action
I would
figure.
buy that. I would buy it Yeah.
But only if Meg Ryan gets to keep her blonde tips.
Yes.
For me, it's about I just want like the Innerspace ship to be big enough to fit my Dennis Quaid action figure into.
You're not asking for much. You're really not.
Goals, Todd. It's
And
gonna-
I want a real flask that I can put a little small amount of whiskey into. That
I have
Dennis
an
Quaid-
extra flask. You can have it. Your
I
name.
might buy Southern Comfort for the first time after I puked after drinking it in college.
Actually, don't buy Southern Comfort. Watch the movie Southern Comfort.
Yo.
Oh, great
Oh.
movie. Yes, Walter Hill.
Absolutely. Boris, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Love
Boris,
you.
so much.
Happy Wednesday. I'll see you guys soon.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm sorry
we love
we
you.
It's your
Uh,
fault for being interesting, Boris. Anyway.
Oh.
Next week we're watching Cobra. Is that what we're doing?
Cobra, yes. Maximilian will be on next Wednesday. We're going to talk about Cobra. Crime is a disease. Meet the cure. It's a little 5'7" Sylvester Stallone with a little match in the poster.
The cure to crime is simple. You just have to eat cold pizza with scissors. Done.
We're here to help you guys. We really are.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Good night. Good night.
Oh, Tracy, you're gonna have to stop the show because there's something wrong with my thing.
I know
I can't
it's
do it.
that
I have
happens.
to call them tomorrow.